52. When love means letting go. As I stood at the threshold of a new life, the weight of my decision threatened to shatter me. Leaving behind my dogs, my cat, my bird, the very fabric of my existence, felt like a cruel betrayal. The anguish that gripped me was palpable, making every breath a painful reminder of what I was about to leave behind. They were more than just animals. They were my family, my confidants, my reason for being. The bond we shared was unbreakable, yet I was about to fracture it, leaving me with a sense of desolation and despair that felt like an open wound. This realization plunged me into a vortex of emotional turmoil. I felt torn in two different directions, caught between my love for my pets and my need to move forward. The harsh reality that lay before me would force me to confront the depths of my compassion and resolve. As I grappled with this impossible choice, my thoughts turned to Missy, the Labrador we had rescued from the Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, SPCA, during my mom's lifetime. With her greying muzzle, warm brown eyes, and gentle demeanour, she exuded a deep wisdom. Yet, beneath her calm exterior lay a complex and sensitive soul, prone to nervous energy and high-strung outbursts that made her a biter. We often had to sequester her when guests or clients visited, lest she target their ankles with uncanny precision. Yet, during the darkest moments of my divorce, Missy stood by me with unwavering loyalty and fearlessness, as if sensing the depths of my anguish. Her devotion came at a cost, however, as she began to bite those close to me, including my employees. As time went on, Missy's health began to decline, and the foul odour emanating from her body often caused her to jump up in discomfort as if stung by a bee. Despite her challenges, I held on to hope. I longed for a kind-hearted Samaritan to emerge and give Missy the loving home she deserved. This would spare me the unbearable decision that loomed before me. But fate had other plans, and on that calamitous morning of 13 November 2018, my last day in Oudtshoorn, I found myself making the heart-wrenching choice to let Missy go. The weight of my decision crushed me, and I was consumed by a grief so profound it felt like it would annihilate me. Yet I had the unshakable conviction that her life without me would have been a living nightmare. With Henny's callous disregard for animal welfare, I knew Missy would suffer unimaginable emotional distress, neglect, and possibly even abuse. The prospect of her being discarded, chained, or locked away, her biting issues exploited as an excuse for cruelty, was a fate worse than death. I couldn't bear the thought of her being treated as a burden, rather than the beloved companion she deserved to be. In my heart, I knew that I was making the ultimate sacrifice to protect her from a future of suffering and possibly even saving her from the agony of a debilitating illness. With a heavy heart, I held Missy's sturdy, rounded body in my arms, her eyes locked on mine, as the vet's compassionate hands administered the final injection. In those final moments, I whispered, my eternal thanks to Missy for being my loyal companion, my protector, and my friend. Just moments before, I had said goodbye to Luca, the Pekingese, as a kind lady arrived to take him to foster care, where he would wait for a new forever home. Luca, with his vibrant personality and irrepressible joie de vivre, had brought unwavering delight to my life. His bond with me was instantaneous, forged from the moment he was born. Esther Marie had been instrumental in bringing him into our lives, and although she had initially hoped to take him with her to Stellenbosch, circumstances had dictated otherwise. Over the past 2 years, Luca had woven himself into the very fabric of my being, becoming an integral part of my daily life. He had slept on my bed for the past few months, his soft, fluffy coat a source of comfort on many a restless night. In the midst of this emotional turmoil, I was also worried about Grace, our 11-year-old cat, with her velvety grey fur and affectionate nature. My mom and I had rescued her from a water furrow next to our house in 2007, the day after we moved in. Henny had never been fond of animals, and his disdain for cats was particularly evident. When we asked him if we could keep Grace, he begrudgingly agreed, on the condition that she stay away from him. Gurik, however, adored Grace, and she would often seek him out whenever he came home. As I faced the prospect of leaving Oudtshoorn, the thought of having to put Grace to sleep was almost too much to bear. Her name, reminiscent of the Grace that had brought us to our permanent home in 2007, seemed especially poignant in that moment. But then, in a surprising turn of events, my dear friend Alette, an animal rights activist, called to say that the retired principal of Gurik's school had offered to take Grace in. Marianne and her husband had recently lost their beloved cat to cancer, and they felt that they could provide a loving home for Grace. That evening, as I took a frightened Grace to her new home, I struggled to maintain my composure. I was overcome with gratitude for Marianne's kindness and for the opportunity Gurik had received through his scholarship. I felt a pang of sadness that Gurik couldn't manage to find a stable home for Grace, as I knew he was deeply fond of her. Moreover, given her age, I was aware that Grace wouldn't thrive in an environment surrounded by other dogs or cats. The thought of her being neglected, abused, or abandoned was more than I could bear. I felt a sense of closure, as if things had come full circle, with Marianne's kindness to Gurik being matched by the kindness they would now show Grace. This kindness would help them heal from their grief over the loss of their cherished cat. As I handed Grace over, Marianne and I were both overcome with emotion, and we shared a tender hug that spoke volumes. I got into my car, consumed by gut-wrenching sobs, and drove back to my empty house, where only Bella and I would spend our last night together in Oudtshoorn. Bella, with her soulful eyes and energetic demeanour, had a way of awakening the strongest bonds within me. Her athletic build and piercing gaze seemed to bore into the core of my being. As a young Ridgeback, she was full of life and vitality, and her presence had brought me exuberant enthusiasm. Thanks to Alet's tireless efforts, Bella had found a new home in a nearby town. However, the representative from the Animal Welfare Society who had handled Bella's adoption could only collect her on the morning of my departure, 14 November, just as the removal company was set to arrive. That last night, spent alone with Bella in my room, was almost too much to bear. The empty spaces left by Missy, Luca, and Grace seemed to echo with their absence. As I looked into Bella's eyes, held her close, and whispered words of comfort, it seemed to me that she understood the depth of my sorrow. The next morning, as I handed Bella over to the representative from the Animal Welfare Society, I was taken aback when she uncharacteristically wanted to bite. My concern for her well-being and fear that she might struggle to adjust to her new home only made our goodbye more heart-wrenching. In contrast, I felt a sense of relief knowing that Foki, the young African grey, would remain at the house with the new owners. They were thrilled to inherit a tame African grey parrot and reassured me that they would provide him with the best care possible. As the removal company finished loading my furniture and drove away, I took one last walk through the empty house. The silence was deafening, the rooms hollow and bare. It was a stark reminder that my chapter in this home had come to a close. The only sound, the only sign of life, came from Foki's cage, where he waited patiently for the new owners who would soon be moving in. His vibrant feathers rustled softly as he shifted on his perch, his curious gaze fixed on me as if wondering what would happen next. As I pulled out of Oudtshoorn, a maelstrom of feelings swirling within me threatened to overwhelm. The anguish of leaving behind my cherished pets wrestled with the thrill of embarking on a new life in Somerset West. My car was packed to capacity, with barely enough space to breathe. The removal truck carrying the remnants of my life was en route to Somerset West, where it would meet me the following morning at my new flat. For now, I was headed to Durbanville, where a friend had graciously offered me lodging for the night. My piano, a constant companion since childhood, would also be delivered to her house, where it would remain until I could figure out another plan. The weight of my past bore down on me as I drove, the memories of my life in Oudtshoorn still fresh and raw. Henny's discovery of my departure that morning had left me with a sense of unease, wondering what repercussions might follow. Yet, it was the faces of my beloved pets that haunted me, their absence a gnawing ache that refused to subside. As the miles flew by, I surrendered to my grief, sobbing uncontrollably for the friends I had left behind.